Once you know the type of bond that you want to set up for your two Ethernet or two or more Ethernet connections on the computer, configuring them is pretty straightforward, although it's drastically different depending on whether you're on Ubuntu or CentOS. So I'm going to show you how to do it on both, and then show you also how to test it to make sure that the bonding modules are working. So here I am on Ubuntu. I've actually already configured it. So I've gone into etc. netplan, and I have my file in here. So let's look at this file. And what I've done is I've set up the proper YAML formatted with indentation and everything to set up bonding. So I'll go over it really quickly. First of all, we need to use Network D as our renderer. We can't use Network Manager in order to configure bonds because it just doesn't support bonding. We do have to define the Ethernet cards themselves. So Ethernet's ETH0, I set DHCP4 to false because I don't want it to actually assign an address to ETH0. After all that is done, we don't need to set up anything more for the Ethernet ports themselves. Then we need to set up a bonded interface. So a new section here, bonds. The name of it is bond0. DHCP4 is false because I'm going to assign a static IP address. And the interfaces is a section that we tell it what interfaces are going to be a part of this bond. In our case, we only have one, which is silly. I mean, we're only bonding one interface, but you can do that, one or more. It's just silly that we only have one to bond. That's just all this computer has. I've set up the addresses, the gateway. The name server is set up just like it would be if we were setting it up for ETH0. Really, the only new difference down here is the parameters. And the parameters, what I've done is mode active backup. That's just one of our modes. It happens to be mode 1, but we actually say active backup. We specify by name the mode here. And then we save this file and do netplan apply. Now, how you can tell if it's working, we can do IP-add to see that, sure enough, it's up. Here's our bond 0 interface. Here's our Ethernet 0 interface, which is up, but doesn't have an IP address. And another way you can test is to look at, so we're just going to cat the file. It's in the virtual file system proc under net, bonding, bond 0. So if we look at this file, it's going to tell us the information about it and say the bonding mode is fault tolerance, active backup, primary slave none, but the current active slave is ETH0. It's our only one that we have. It's up and it looks like everything is working good. Here's our slave interface, ETH0 down here, and that's all working well as well. So we have it all set up and it's working. Now with CentOS, the setup is a little bit different because CentOS is set up differently. In CentOS, in order to configure our Ethernet ports, we go into etc. sysconfig network scripts, and in here we have our ifconfig file. So I'm going to first look at the changes we have to make to ifconfig ETH0. So here we make it pretty simple. Ethernet type, boot protocol is none. The name, the device is ETH0. On boot, we want it to come up, but notice I haven't given any IP addressing information. And here are the two things. The master is bond 0, and yes, this is going to be a slave to this bond. All right, so those are the changes we make here. If we look at ifconfig bond 0, this is where we set up bond 0. We name it bond 0. Bonding master is yes. I did give this one an IP address and a prefix, which means the subnet mask. On boot, we want it to come up. Boot protocol is none. And then here, the bonding options, we tell it what we want it to do. I actually set this one up to mode 6. Mode 6 is balance all load balancing. So it does its own version of load balancing for incoming and outgoing traffic. Again, I only have the one interface on this computer, but that's okay. Let's do the same thing. Now, checking to make sure it's working is similar. We can do IP-add. We can see, sure enough, here's the bond set up right here, and our Ethernet is right here. And really, for configuring the bonds themselves, that's all there is to it. Ubuntu and CentOS are configured differently, but underneath they're both doing the same thing. They're using the bonding kernel module, and they're allowing you to do some awesome things with multiple Ethernet ports on your computer. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.